we've got a great challenge from Carl this week. So what we're looking to do, let's take a look at our data, shall we? We have various destinations, various dates, and the revenue of those locations on those dates. And what we're looking to do is create some moving calculations. So for a given date, we want to look 3 days into the past, 3 days into the future, if you like, and we want to either sum all that revenue or we want to average that revenue of all those dates so that it's a rolling calculation. So how do we go about doing that? Well, first of all, we need to have a row for every date that is associated with that date. So let's take our example, the one that Carl gave us in the challenge description. So if we look at the 5th of January, then what we're going to want that to include is we're going to want that in this row for each of these destinations, we're going to want to have the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th of January. We're going to want the revenue values for all of those dates. So basically, we need to scaffold this data set, but we don't have a scaffolding input. Well, actually, we can just use this data, join it to itself to create that scaffold. So let's go ahead and look at how that could look. So I'm first of all grouping by just the date field so that I just get one row for each of those dates. And then I'm also creating a date from and date to calculation. So that will give me those boundaries, if you like. So for the 5th of January, it will give me my lower bound of the 2nd of January and an upper bound of the 8th of January. So let's take a look at how to do those calculations. So if we start with the from, date from, then basically what you'll see is that we're wrapping our function in a date function, and then we're using date add day minus 3 date. So that will minus off 3 days from, say, the 5th of January, making it the 2nd of January. And the same would apply for the date 2. We would just have a 3 there instead of a minus 3. So then when we're going to join these together to create that scaffold, what we're doing here is we're saying that our lower bound, our date from, has to be less than or equal to the date in our aggregate step, and our upper bound, our date to, has to be greater than or equal to the date. And we can check out if this is working. So if I select the 5th of January and select one of the destinations, then we can see that what we have for that is we have the 2nd of January through to the 8th of January, and we have 7 rows there. So that's definitely worked how we wanted it to, which is great. We've done the scaffolding part. But let's take a look at it in more detail, I guess. So if I were to look at it before I'd removed these fields, then if I take a look at, say, the 5th of January here, and I just take my London destination, for example, we've got an issue here that we've just got the same revenue repeated over and over again on each of these lines, which isn't quite what we want. What we want is for the revenue of each of those dates to be corresponding there. So I'm going to go ahead and redo that, deleting that I had done, removing those fields there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to join this data back to itself on this date field to bring through those revenues. So that means that we have to join on the date to the date minus 1 from this step that I just showed you, and making sure to join the destination as well so we get the correct revenue figures. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too confusing, what I just described there. But now if you take a look at our date, if I've removed some of the fields from them, it took me a little while to work out which date was the correct date. But if I go and look at the 5th of January now, and just move that up, and maybe select on London too, now you can see that we have all different values of revenue, which is correct. That's what we want to be seeing. So I've duplicated my revenue field ahead of going into this aggregate step, where I'm grouping by the destination, I'm grouping by the date. With one of those revenue fields, I'm summing, and with the other one, I am creating an average. So we can call that the rolling week average and the rolling week total. I'm doing the same thing in this aggregate step, but without the destination, to create a total or an all. And then we're unioning together those two aggregates. So if I just get rid of some of the changes, then something that you might have to do here, let's just do it like if I was creating a brand new union for you. You'll notice that because I couldn't be bothered to rename my fields twice, I probably would have made a spelling error. I have to manually merge some of these fields together. So I know that my revenue was the one that I summed. So I'm just going to drop that on top of my rolling week total. And that they now are merged. You can see those colors lining up. And then I'll pick up my revenue minus 1 to go on top of the rolling weekly average. And then that will merge together as well. There you go. And then I just get rid of the table names and I've changed my destination, the nulls to all. And that is all that we need to do for this challenge. I will actually get rid of that because it will just annoy me if I don't. Just a little bit of column reshuffling and we're all done with this week's challenge. So hopefully that was good fun for you. I found it quite a fun challenge, like it definitely made me think. So hopefully you did too. Thanks for watching.